Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next episode of Overwatch.
The Toronto Defiant will not be denied.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Made in Esports. I'm one of your host, Spencer. With me is Chris. Today, not really a surprise, we are going to give our thoughts on the May Melee.
You know what? We've got 3 weeks or something until Toronto Defiant play again. Man, it's kind of unfortunate. I wish I could watch Toronto a little bit more, and hopefully they're good enough to get into the May Melee next time. Real fingers crossed here. But
It's going to be tough considering it's in June, right? No more May Melees in the month of June. The
It's
June Joust is what it's called.
That's what it's called, the June Joust?
Yeah,
I kind of like that. That's jokes.
But I just know that it's funny that we could talk a little bit about Defiant, maybe very quickly about their performance. Had like a really weird performance where on one hand, I think people's expectations were pretty low. So I do think them getting into the May Melee in the first place was fairly impressive.
Yeah.
But my one concern was sort of like the play that we had seen from them. I think that this team, the team coordination has significant room to improve, in my opinion. We saw ultimates being thrown all over the place. We saw individuals being caught out of positions consistently, individuals overextending consistently. And I do understand that there's like people in the community who are like, hey, it's a new roster, give them time. And I do agree, like my position is not, hey, this year's chalked, right? Like blow it up. Like it's the first tournament. It's been 4 or 5 games, right? They have plenty of time to improve. But I was expecting to see a little bit more team cohesion, considering the talent that we have on the team. Sato, Hisu, Lastro, even like Michelle, considering the level of coaching staff that we have on the team. KDG, right? World-renowned coach, supposed to be one of the best in the league. And I still have a ton of faith in KDG. I don't mean supposed to, as in like he's also chalked. Definitely not. But given the talent, given the coaching staff, I did expect to see more team coordination, a better performance. And it's not the fact that in theory, 3-1 is a good performance, but it's how we got there. That's more concerning. You scraped by the skin of your teeth versus Atlanta Reign. Barely, surprisingly, beat the London Spitfire, who's like, let's be serious here. Like, debatably a European contenders team. I know people are high on them, and they're an elite European contenders team, the best to ever do it, but a European contenders team nonetheless. So, sorry, I cut you off there.
Exactly. No, I was just saying, like when we talk about teamwork, guys, obviously, when you critique, certain teamwork flaws are like, oh, like mistimed bubble, or three, people push and a couple forget. Like, look, yeah, that's like kind of some stuff where you can, hey, they're a new roster, new team. But when I see like something like Nice, and guys, comment below if you saw this too. But when you saw somebody like Nice go in and copy on Anubis point B, when he was literally by himself, like there's nobody there, nobody even close to the point, and I'm like, all right, what's this?
Yeah,
this is kind of like
there's a thing where Sato overextends with his ultimate, and then Michelle chases after him, and then the team just collapses on Michelle. He dies, and then Sato dies, and all of a sudden, like it's 2 CP. Like on defense, we can't have that. You had a few different times where people were caught out of position. Michelle whiffed a few grabs, and I know there's some rookies on the team, Nice, Ansanjay, but there's been a lot of rookies who have been integrated into systems. And one, we picked the rookies, so if the rookies aren't working out, that once again is kind of on the team. But 2. I think with the coaching staff, we should have seen a better performance. So I'm optimistic. I still think the talent was very clear. Like we beat London off of like pure talent alone, in my opinion. Like a ton of mistakes, but Toronto would just clutch up because of the talent on the roster. So I'm very optimistic based on the talent that we had seen. But I think there's definite room for improvement. So
I think Logix won us that first map versus
Logix popped up. Hey, that was actually good to see. Honestly, it was good to see Logix actually go in there, and that lineup worked. It didn't. There was obviously team cohesion mistakes, but that was to be expected. Especially when Logix is in there with the communication issues. That I'm a little bit more lenient on, but he popped off. So good for him to once again show why he was on that roster in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there, Spencer. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about our Melee.
Yeah.
Melee. May Melee predictions.
Grammar's hard.
And this is an interesting one because this is going to be the first time we really see the cross-pollination of 2 different regions.
Obviously, we saw it last year, right? But I know this year.
I know, yeah. For this year, of course, a new roster, new people. Obviously, it's going to be some interesting ones. So I think let's touch on Shanghai Dragons versus Florida Mayhem first.
Yeah, well, also just for the record, it's also crazy. These are the 4 teams that made it. I mean, you have Shanghai, which everybody expected, and then Florida, Dallas, Chengdu. So just a good, like, cool little like parity that the league has going on. Because I don't think anybody expected these 4 teams to make it.
When I think of Chengdu, I think of Chengdu back in goats, and they're running like
Yeah,
ball into goats, and we're like,
No,
what are you guys doing, Chengdu?
the Hunters have some real talent. I'm a huge Gaga fan. Like when they made that pickup, I think he's got and Super Rich, I believe, is on the team. They have a lot of talent coming into this roster. Or 1987, not Super Rich. 1987. Regardless, they very clearly have upgraded a lot of positions. I just didn't expect them to be top 2 in APAC right off the rip. So good for them. Shanghai Dragons versus Florida. Florida, again, looked better when they're in the Washington Justice, and they obviously beat Toronto, but I don't think that one over Toronto was like... I didn't watch Florida being like, hey, this is one of the 2 best teams in the region. I actually expected to see either Houston or Shock as one of them, but obviously, given the way the brackets worked out, it didn't end up that way. But obviously, they went there and they beat the Justice. So, I mean, obviously, they deserve to be there. And absolutely something. I worry that was a little bit of a... I don't want to say one-hit wonder. They obviously got a ton of talent on that team. I think we had them number 5 going into the year. But I was just surprised to see them struggle so much throughout the tournament and then, boom, have a massive pop-up performance against the Washington Justice and kind of get into this top 4 position. So I do expect Shanghai to win this. I think on paper they're better. I think they have a better read on the meta in terms of both being able to play double bubble and rush. So we'll see where this goes.
Well, here's the thing, though. And look, I'm actually a pretty big Shanghai fan. I love their support line and I love their DPS line. I think one thing that's going to go into this analysis too is kind of just knowing a little bit more about what's viable right now. And it's really important to note that like really everything, a lot of characters are viable. I mean, McCree, he's been picked like the most out of any hero, 43%. But like Dallas, I don't think, have they chosen him? I don't know. Like
no,
they haven't.
I don't think Dallas has chosen him.
That just goes to show like how many different viable characters are. And
I think that's more of a boost on Dallas though, as opposed to...
I know, I know. And yeah, that's just, I guess I'm getting to my point here where I'm saying, I think that to be able to really determine who's going to win, it bases a lot off of what the map pool is and what type of comp they're best at.
Yep.
And for me, when we've seen, Florida versus Shanghai, I feel like Shanghai is a little bit more one-dimensional.
I totally disagree.
Yeah, see, we're disagreeing.
You think Shanghai is more one-dimensional than Florida?
I still really like, I guess, the support line and the DPS line of Shanghai, but I feel like the synergies with the tanks have been a little bit off in the first stage.
But Fate will figure it out. I mean, it's the same. Void is one of the best off tanks in the league. I think I'm more worried about the synergy between Gargoyle and OGE than I am between Fate and
yeah, see, that is the one thing.
Void.
OGE.
It's also cool to see Fate play his former team right off rip, like in the main melee right at the beginning. I think that's going to be interesting. A little bit of a grudge match.
See, I think that is the one win condition for Shanghai is the fact is OGE, because I think they are really good at punishing other teams' tanks, and OGE is a risk taker. So they may be able to shut them down.
Win condition for Shanghai than just punishing OG. I think they're the better team.
I know. I'm just highlighting one of the win conditions.
One of them
is really being able to take down OG, but I really can't deny their past performance.
Yeah, I personally think Shanghai is going to win this entire tournament. I think had you seen the Shock in here, I think had you seen the Houston Outlaws in here, I think even if from APAC, if you had seen some other teams, maybe like Philadelphia or Seoul, there would be a little bit more competition for them. But seeing the teams that have actually made it, I think this is Shanghai's to lose. With that being said, obviously anything can happen. The meta is going to be very important. Teams, yeah. I'm just worried that teams are going to figure out Florida and what really worked for them, or the performance that we saw versus the Justice is not truly indicative of where they are as a team on a consistent basis, and therefore they're going to flop. Because remember, this team was losing maps to Paris. They're losing maps to Vancouver when it came to Rush, so I am not sold in Florida in the slightest. I mean, they just stomped Toronto, so good for them. But
the thing is, and when it comes to like the dynamicism of a team, I was looking at team comps, right, of like Shanghai and what their win rates are. Like their double bubbles are pretty damn good. Like they're getting upwards of that 70-80% win rate. But actually, their rushes aren't as good. They're looking at that 43 to 45% range.
Yeah, but also I think I don't think
Obviously, you
Florida's
can't
is
look
very
too
good
much
rush
into that.
either. Yeah, and I was gonna say
but
also losers pick maps, so you can pick maps. Or I think Shanghai's a better rush team. I also think Shanghai's a better double bubble team. Like I
Okay.
think Florida would want to play double bubble, and I think that would play right into Shanghai's hands. Dallas and the Hunters is another interesting one because I think that Dallas. I've never been so wrong about a team in my entire life. Going into this year with again knowing that Tracer, McCree were meta, I had Dallas I think like 10th or 9th. I think I had them in 9th in my power rankings. Again with the asterisk that they had no hit scan, thinking that was a pretty safe bet. And now they're probably the best team in NA right now. If they beat the Shock 3-0, they beat the Houston Outlaws 3-0. So I still worry that teams are going to be able to figure out their playstyle because of the fact that they're running such non-meta comps. But man, that tank line is absolutely elite. The support line has seen much improved. I think got Fielder in there. He's showing that he's the real deal. I think Chengdu should win this just because I just think of the flexibility, double bubble, rush compositions. Like I'd always would pick a team that can play the meta versus a team that can't. But I just want to give a shout out to Dallas because I was 100% wrong with them.
Yeah, you know what? I understand that too. And so sorry, are you kind of giving it to Chengdu?
I'm gonna say the Hunters. Yeah, it was funny. I was a team NA. Like I think NA is a better region than APAC. I think APAC's always been a little bit overrated because they've just had such a flashy dive.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, very strong region. I've always felt that like the top tier NA teams could beat and compete with the top tier APAC teams.
Yeah.
And I think you would have seen that had the meta been different in the championship. Regardless, I'm going on a tangent. But I do think that the best teams in NA actually didn't make it to this one. I still think the Justice, the Gladiators, Houston Outlaws, and San Francisco Shock are the top 4. I just think teams will figure out Dallas to a degree. I still think they're elite, and I give them all the props in the world. I also
are they going to figure them out during the main melee, or do you think they're going to figure them out after?
It's a good question. That is the question in my opinion. If it's after, then I think Dallas legitimately has a shot. But I think you have an entire week to prep. You only have 2 teams as opposed to like multiple different games going on. You know who your team is. You have lots of you have like 5 or 6 games on them now. I think they'll be able to figure it out, and I think that you'll see the Hunters come out on top.
Oh man. I mean, you're making a good argument, and guys. I was kind of like leaning towards, Dallas initially too, just because once again, just looking at their team fight win percentage, it looks like they have
Their tanks are god tier. Fearless has been
they have
so
a better,
impressive.
yeah. Like that's what I was saying.
Such a good
One
tank
thing,
line.
Fearless is just amazing, and he kind of gave that massive spark to Shanghai last year as well.
Sparkle can carry on so many different heroes. It's a good team.
That's what I mean. It's a great team, and look at their win fight percentage. They are a little more consistent with their team comps, but I cannot deny the fact that not only is Chengdu Hunters dive unique in the sense that they're using mostly lots of ball diva, and you don't really see a heck of a lot of double bubble. Not only that, but their poke is really good too, and I think that's something that we don't see a heck of a lot of in NA. So I think it may even throw off Dallas too.
Yeah, I just think that you're going to see teams sort of counter the sim and the May and whatnot. And I think that again, McCree and Tracer are the most picked characters for a reason. They're really strong, and I just think eventually you're just going to be able to sit down for an entire week and prep versus Dallas and be like, okay, here's how I'm going to counter this. And then once you figure that out, I don't know if Dallas has the flexibility to truly counter it because again, they don't have a hit scan. And don't get me wrong, that logic burned me the entire stage 1 when I was like, Dallas is not going to be a top 5 team, and here's why. I was at 100% wrong. But I do think at this point, with the elite level of teams that are currently in the melee, I have Shanghai going 1. I actually have the Hunters going 2. So I think it's going to be an APAC 1-2, and I think we'll start to see that switch coming into the next tournaments afterwards. But hey, Dallas has proven me wrong before. Wouldn't be surprised if they do it again.
Okay, I understand that, and I'm gonna put Chengdu at 1, and yeah, I know it's a little bit.
Actually,
spicy.
no, that's not too spicy. Hunters are good. Hunters are a really good team. They 3-0'd Shanghai, actually, to be honest, in stage 1. So that probably makes more sense. I'm just going off of like I just have more trust in Shanghai.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and like on paper, kind of legacy, they are better. I understand that, but I'm just gonna go with a little bit of spicy pick. I'm gonna go say, Hunters number 1, Florida number 2.
Spicy, definitely. I don't think I think if any NA team is gonna shock people, it's gonna be Dallas. They're just gonna fucking I think Fearless and Hanbin are just going to have their way. That's if Dallas wins this whole thing, is Fearless and Hanbin are going to be MVPs, co-MVPs, because that tank line has been so incredible. They can run the rush, can run the dive. But we'll see, though. We'll see.
I guess we'll have to see. I'll have to wait and see on that.
With that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let us know your thoughts down below. Who do you think is going to take the May Melee? The May Melee. Melee. Who do you guys think is going to take it? Are you surprised to see the these four teams make it this far? What happened to the Justice? What happened to the Shock? Tune in next week, Main Esports. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And as always, guys, thank you for watching and enjoy.